and my students, in case that you're joining us this afternoon. So I have a lot of information to share with you today, a lot of information. And then after I finish presenting to all of you the information that I have to share, you would have an opportunity to ask questions. So you know what we're dealing with. It's not a secret. So my job is to make sure that I have systems in place to ensure that you're going to be here with us at IS 145 in September in a safe environment, healthy environment, and also learning what you're supposed to be learning as a 7th grader and as an 8th grader. So welcome once again. So next slide. So in order for me to share with you any information today, I have to give you what I have received by the DOE. And based on what I have received, then I was able to formulate a plan that I'll be sharing with you this afternoon. So what do I have in my possession? I have a couple of things that I'll be sharing with you today. First of all, I have a preliminary social distance capacity form or template or document. And what that means is that the DOE was able to measure the size of each one of our rooms, or they have a system, I guess they have all that information in the system. And based on the size of every room and the amount of students that we are servicing, the DOE gave us a formula. And I'll be sharing with you the formula in a few minutes. I also have with them another document that is related to the social distancing room capacity, which means how many students I can accommodate in every room. They also gave us different programming models that I'll be sharing with you as well. The New York State Education Department also gave us some health guidelines and another document that I'll be talking to you about. We have a school budget, that's good. We have the amount of students per class. We have 56 classes, 6 self-contained classes. We have 62 classes. We have teacher programs. I have the luxury, for a good term, to put together a staggering start time and dismissal schedule. We have technology access. We have a clinic in our house, in our school, and we have a way to have different conversations with different departments within our school system, meaning the custodians, the hospitals that are working in this building, the kitchen staff, the UFT teachers. So we had a big meeting the other day here. And I'll be sharing with you some of that information this afternoon. So let me start just showing you the first one, preliminary social distancing capacity. Preliminary social distance capacity, Jamie. Just clap that. So this is how the document looks. So the first thing I have to work with is this critical, super important document. And what it says is that we have in our building 65 rooms that we can use for instructional purposes. And we cannot have more than 650 people in our building. From 630 to 700, so around 650, we should not have more than 1/3 of the school population in our building, including the staff. So that document I have in my possession, and I'm working with that document at all times. So how does that look like in a real setting? I'll be sharing that with you later on. Let's look at the next slide. So with that document, they also send me something called pass space information, which means the room number, area, square feet per room, the designation, which is a regular classroom, and towards your right, the social distancing room capacity, the maximum amount of people that I can put in each one of those rooms. If you look at room 101, it's a classroom, 660 square feet. However, we cannot have more than 13 people in that room. People meeting, amount of students, and teachers, teacher or teachers. So I have that document also that I'm working with. So that's important for me to show it to you so you understand how I'll be programming IS 145 for September. Next slide. So at the beginning of this presentation, that menu of different topics has also something called programming models. So in our school, by examining the previous two documents and having a conversation with teachers in general, I had a meeting with almost 100 teachers, virtually, of course, a couple of weeks ago, and SLT members. We decided that the model that we're going to use is one of the models that was suggested by the chancellor, which model 3B, which means that we are going to have students in our building, and the way it looks is that if I have class 741, 741 has 30 students. Those 30 students will be subdivided in 3 groups. Let's say the first 10, as an example, would be group A, the other 10, group B, and the other 10, group C. So on Mondays and Tuesdays, 10 out of those 30 students would be in person at IS 145. The other 20 would be remote. And when it comes to Wednesday and Thursday, we have group B in our building in person, but group A and C will be remote. And then the following group, which is group C, will be Friday and Monday on a rotation basis. Group D, those are the students that the parents have chosen, that the parents have decided to keep them remote at all times. That's more or less how the model looks like. And that's another document that I have in my possession, provided by the DOE. Next document, next slide. So now, let's take a look at the academic concept. As you are all aware, we have 4 different academies. So let me use this slide just as an example of how this is going to work. Let's just assume that the first day of school is September 7th. I'm just assuming. Let's say it's the September 7th. And I have right here classes 631, 632, 633, 634, 635 as an example. So class 631 will be room 323A, 632 and 323B, and so forth. The students will not be moving. They'll be staying in the classroom at all times. The teachers are the ones that are going to be moving from one classroom to another. So if you look at 631, they'll stay put in 323A. So they'll be here Monday and Tuesday. Group B will be Wednesday and Thursday. Group C, Friday, 9/11. And then the following Monday, which is the 14th. Then for the Tuesday and Wednesday, 15 and 16 will be Group A again. Thursday and Friday, Group B. And the following week, Group C, Monday and Tuesday. So that's more or less how the model is going to work in our building. So we're just following the AA, BB, CC model, and Group D is always at home because that is what the parents have decided to do for those particular students, children. Next slide, please. So right now at IS 145, these are the classes that I have by academies. The 56 classes, 30 students per class, including the ICT classes, and then the 6 self-contained classes. This is how our school is going to look like in September in terms of the amount of classes per academy and programs. Next document. So now, the question here is, how are we going to handle the health and the safety of all students and staff members? Obviously, these are key tenets of plan that was put together by the Department of Education. Promoting behaviors that reduce spread. The physical distancing, we are not going to have more than 550 students in our building. Towards the end of this presentation, I'm going to show you how I think we can do it for your consideration and your input. But the physical distancing is a huge piece that we have to take into consideration. Wear face covering is another component, even though I read in one of the sections that was provided to me by the Department of Health that I cannot demand people to wear it, but I guess we have to make them aware of the importance of wearing a mask. Keep hands clean. Well, we have already, we have been receiving a lot of sanitizers and masks. I mean, a lot of the items that we need in order to minimize any situation pertaining health and safety. The DOE will be providing all those artifacts, articles, etc. to the schools. And the signage and floor markings, I have already created different posters and so forth regarding different signs throughout the whole building. Maintaining healthy environment, changes to school building, cleaning and disinfecting, and food services. Well, as of now, in the meeting that I had with different parties, meaning custodial staff, kitchen staff, clinic, UFD teachers, and so forth, the custodians will be cleaning the bathrooms, for example, at 10 o'clock every day, at 12 o'clock again, and so forth. They have a plan that I can always share with you in our school website. When it comes to food services, breakfast will be provided, grab and go. Students will be eating breakfast in the classroom, and as well as lunch. Students will be eating lunch in the classrooms. That is to minimize exposure and to keep the social distancing in place at all times. Maintaining healthy operations, testing and screening entry protocols. Based on the conversation that I had with Dr. Merceda, the doctor in charge of the clinic from Amherst Hospital, there will be staff taking the temperature of every student and adult that walks into this building. In addition, we already have a room that will be used to send any student that may show symptoms in the classroom. And I have already a system that I'll be sharing with you at the end in terms of how we're going to reach out to the parents and so forth. Preparing when someone gets sick, that's basically what I'm trying to convey to you right now. I'll be sharing that information with you later on. Next slide. Test and trace protocols. This is something that just came out today. and it's in the news everywhere, I'm assuming. And what it means is that when it comes to having the students in the classroom, let's say first day of school, second day of school, we have around 500 kids in the building. First scenario, one confirmed case. Conclusion of investigation, one confirmed case. If that's the situation, we close the classroom and transition to remote learning for that particular class where one child showed symptoms and it was confirmed that he had a COVID. Classrooms remain closed. That particular classroom remains closed for 14 days. Students and staff in close contact with positive case self-quarantine for 14 days. Ms. Kleinman, I'm getting,
It's hold on. It's not me. I don't know what's going on.
okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, let's try it again. So that is first scenario. Second scenario is at least two cases linked together in school, same classroom, closed classroom, transition to remote learning. Classroom remains closed for 14 days. Students and staff in close contact with positive cases of quarantine for 14 days. Third scenario, at least two cases linked together in school, different classrooms. Closed school building, transition to remote learning. Classrooms of each case remain closed and quarantined. Additional school members are quarantined based on where the exposure was. Fourth scenario, at least two cases linked together by circumstances outside of school. Acquired infection by different settings and source. Closed school building, transition to remote learning. School opens post investigation, classroom remain closed 14 days. Let me push up the next one. It says link unable to, let's say a situation occurs somewhere in the neighborhood and it is brought to our attention, then the building will also be closed. This information was disseminated yesterday when I had the meeting with the chancellor, all the principals that met with the chancellor yesterday at 4 o'clock. And it was also disseminated today when the chancellor and the mayor had a press conference. Once again, things are happening and changing constantly, but this is what we have so far. Next slide. So let me just go back and summarize this. So when it comes to our facilities, we need to promote social distancing at all times and maintaining existing safety requirements designed to protect students. Those are two critical pieces. And since I have those indicators in place right now, what I will be sharing with you at the end of this presentation should reflect those two bullets regarding facilities in our building. Next slide. This is how the classrooms look right now in terms of facilities. This is how it looks right now. We have no more than 10 desks and chairs in those classrooms that can accommodate from 10 to 12 people. Very different, but this is now our new reality. The whole building has been already prepared for this. Every single extra desk and chair has to be moved to one section of the room. teachers were informed that every single room must be clean, meaning not having boxes. You know how we are. We always we always like to have boxes of stuff and a lot of artifacts. It's the nature of being a teacher, I guess. But now more than ever, even though I've been trying to push this for a couple of years, every single classroom should look clean and organized. So that's how it looks like right now. Next slide. Nutrition. Again, I mentioned that already. So parents and students, we have to have breakfast. I mean, we all need to eat something in the morning, right? But it will be eating inside of the classroom and lunch as well. Next slide. Transportation, business as usual. The school bus is an extension of the classroom, and services should be provided to all students with consistency and equity. All students and drivers will wear masks and social distance on the bus. Next slide, please. Okay, so how do we promote this? Not that the students don't know about it, but in every classroom and the hallway, even around the building, we will be displaying different posters. And just to re-emphasize the importance of following what is required in order to be in a safe environment. So this are some of the posters that we have created already and that we have in our possession and that were designed in our makerspace. When it comes to teaching and learning, that's a big piece because now we're talking about the logistics of how to bring the kids to the school. But what about what they are going to learn and how are they going to learn it? Especially with these models that you are basically in person twice a week. And if nothing happens, that's going to be twice a week. But if something happens, you will be spending more time remotely than in the classroom. Meaning, if a case is brought up to our attention, that turned out to be positive. So when it comes to teaching and learning, equitable instruction for all students, business as usual, ELA, math, social studies, science, and so forth. Ensuring continuity of learning regardless of the instructional model used. Every single kid, every single child, every single student deserves to receive the quality instruction, the quality of work that teachers have to put together for them, and they have to learn and process and be able to move on with the skills that they have to master and the standards they have to meet. So we need to reinforce that at all levels, not just with the teachers, also with the parents and the students, especially those that are remote. Providing standards-based instruction, ensuring substantive daily interaction between teachers and students. Again, synchronous instruction, something that will be determined soon. How are we teaching in a classroom and when we are not in the classroom in case that we have to go remote at all times? Clearly communication information about instructional plans with parents or guardians. We are going to have, my hope is to have a series of meetings with you. I have a team already working in putting together a unit for each one of the subjects that should illustrate the 4 different blended learning models that we have in our system and how does that look like when it comes to teaching mathematics, English, social studies, science, and so forth. And not even that, how does that look like when it comes to receiving instruction in person versus remote. Next slide. So this is how it's going to look like. When it comes to instruction, there are 7 big components. And I would like to have a meeting with parents. Our second meeting should be with, the second meeting with parents should be all about the different models that we're going to use at IS 145 to teach your child. The first piece says core curriculum digital components. This is just an overview. Every single curriculum will be online. So, expeditionary learning, which is the ELA curriculum, students, parents, you could access all that online. So you were able to see each one of the lessons online, of course, that the teacher should be teaching to your child. When it comes to mathematics, the CMP3, and we are now working towards supplementing the CMP3 curriculum with the Go Math. I'm going to try to see how can we integrate that also online, since Go Math is not core curriculum, but CMP3 is. When it comes to social studies, Passport to Social Studies, same scenario. And when it comes to science, Amplify, we have everything also online. So there should not be a reason for any child not to have access to the lessons virtually and online, and accessing the lessons online. The other element has to do with the Google Classroom. That's the platform we're using. There were two choices, Google Classroom, and I think we're very familiar with that one, or the NYC Learn, or I Learn NYC, which
I
is,
Learn NYC.
okay, thank you. So that is the one that has been used now in the summer. That particular one requires teachers to provide 2 hours of synchronous instruction. That I think has been negotiated with the UFD for the school year. But again, it should also be done with the Google Classroom. The other element, engaging all stakeholders. You are one of the key stakeholders. So we need to share all this information with not just the teachers, with every single parent, every single student. How is this going to look like moving forward? The other element has to do with learning models. There are 4 different learning models. I'll be sharing that with you in the next meeting when we talk about instructional matters only. The instructional practices, once again, and resources are critical. Um, in our IS 145, every classroom has brand new, I mean, smart boards. We have plenty of Chromebooks. We have a lot of resources in our building. I'm sure that we have to work in terms of the bandwidth to provide, to project all this work remotely, but that's something that I have to work with the DOE. When it comes to assessments, that's a huge piece. So students are learning a lot in person and at home, but how do you assess that? Again, we have a grading policy. It's been, let's say, refined. There's a committee analyzing how is that going to look like in this type of new setting. We have a grading policy in our system, in our school, about it's 40% exams, 30% projects, participation, homework, etc. But how is that going to look like if we are most of the time remote or in school or in person? The next one, which is the huge one, the most important one, addressing unfinished learning. Just keep in mind that the last day of school for the students at IS 145 was on a Friday. That Friday, students left IS 145 without knowing that they were not coming back. Very sad, including my 8th graders. It's extremely, extremely sad. When you walk around this building and you see the lockers still with kids' belongings, it breaks your heart. I mean, it's so sad. But now the question is, what about the instruction they received virtually? Its effectiveness is to be determined. How much they have retained is to be determined. What will be the next step in closing the achievement gap if it was ever generated or created is to be determined. So in order for me to do that, I had more than ever to get a screener, which is a system it's a test that will allow us to determine the deficiencies that the students might have or the students may have as a result of being taught remotely. That test, the MAP, M-A-P, uh, we will be administering this test for English, math, and science. And I'm trying to see how can we do it also for social studies. So when I talked about addressing unfinished learning, that is something that we need to take into consideration seriously. Not just the teachers that have put together units of studies, but also for the staff, for the parents to understand the importance of making sure that each one of your each one of your children were able to master the standards for that particular grade and subject. Next slide. So in order for me to make sure that students will be receiving what they're entitled to, we're still going to keep 8 periods of English, 4 periods of Spanish language arts for dual language students. And those that are not dual language students, 8th graders will take the Spanish, 2 periods of 90 minutes of Spanish as well. 8 periods of mathematics, 5 periods of social studies, 5 periods of science, 2 periods of physical education. They're still going to receive electives such as visual arts, computer, dance, culinary arts, drama, health, library and media arts, and life skills. Next slide. I'm still hoping that we could have after school programs. I don't know how it's going to look like, to be honest with you, but I have that as part of my budget. I would like to continue with the boys and girls basketball. I don't know how, but I would like to continue having it. I'm sure that one day we're going to come back to school again with all our kids walking around the hallway and being the family that we are. The BEAM team for Makerspace, the after school program, Champs Sports, Cooking Club, Dance Club, Drama Club, Win Team. I mean, I'm hoping to have every single program that we have had at IS 145, including the Sonic program. I don't know, Mateo, you want to address that one.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. As of right now, the Sonic program, it will be in place. Registration for the program will be held by the program director, Mr. Boris Arias. And as you guys know already, the Sonic runs Monday through Friday. They're still being debated if it's going to be solely remote or it's going to be also a hybrid model. But there will be definitely a program for through Sonic. So once all the information is ready, you can reach out to Mr. Boris Arias, and we will provide his information in our school website, his email, and his cell phone number, so you guys can have it for more information.
Thank you, Mr. Mateo. Next slide. Okay, when it comes to the social emotional learning, it's been tough at all levels, extremely difficult. So the students, middle school students, they have the tendency to hold a lot of their emotions. But I guess that because of this unique situation, I hope that they can express themselves more than ever in terms of what concerns them the most. In order for us to provide systems in our building for the students to express their emotions or their fears, their challenges, and hopes, we have the Amherst Mental Health Clinic in our building. We have the NYC Health and Hospital Clinic. We have counseling in schools, which is a provider that we have also in our building with 2 guidance counselors, school counselors. And then IS 145 will continue to support the well-being and success of all students and families all together, working together as a community. Next slide. In order for me to provide services to your children, many of you have completed the school-based health center form. I'm sure you have seen it. This is the form that I need all of you to complete if you want your child to be seen by our practitioners here at IS 145 from the New York City hospitals. This is not something that you have to, that is mandatory, but 90% of the parents like to complete it. They want to have this in our school because if a student, a child gets sick, and we have seen many kids that they come to school, they get sick, they throw up, etc., etc. At least the nurse can look at the child, take his temperature, and so forth. And then from there, they will communicate with you. But if you don't complete this form, then it's hard for the nurse to provide services to the student because we have sometimes parents that would say, no, I don't want anybody to look and examine my child. But if the child is throwing up, has fever, headache, and you are working and you cannot get here in a couple of hours, then it's always good to have someone that could just at least take the temperature of your child. Um, well, we have some of, if you did it already, you don't have to do it again. For those of you that have not done it, please let me know so I can send you the form. I'm trying to work this electronically, send it to you electronically, but let's see how far we can go with this. Next slide. Now, we have, this is a very important piece now more than ever. And trust me, parents, it's not easy. I had to troubleshoot. I mean, I had to test my knowledge and how capable I am to handle all this technology. Like a few minutes ago, before starting this meeting, I couldn't get my computer up and running. So we have to be well versed, more than ever, in how to access, uh, how to use our technology in our favor. So, Ms. Clapman, are you there? So
I'm
let's
here.
talk about what we have as a school and what are some of the things that we need from the parents.
So like the first bullet mark says, all our classrooms are equipped with a smart board. And one big thing that we definitely took pride in once we went remote was overhauling our website. So I'm going to take you to our school website. If you never went to our website, please make sure you jot down the website's URL, which is www.145innovators.com. So I'm just going to come out of and go so you guys can see it. So this is what our website looks like. You can't see it right now because I actually X'd out of it. But once you log into our website, a text box will actually stop you. And I know Mr. Mateo and Miss Fizame have been dropping in the link to the learning preference sheet that you all as parents should have filled out to determine what you want your student to do, whether you want them to do the hybrid model that we're planning on doing or be remote. That's up to you, but you can find that on our website. So it will be a text box, or it'll be, if you look right here where it says latest news, if you click on this, it will take you to that actual DOE survey that you have to fill out. So any type of news that we want you guys to see will be right here under the latest news. So Mr. Rodriguez spoke about how the mayor and the chancellor talked about test and trace protocols. So their email that they sent out is right here. You can click on that. Any type of event that's coming up in the next 6 days will be right here on the homepage with the calendar. Anything that's important, spotlight would be down here. So our Zoom meetings that we have today are right down here. If you haven't done so already, if you click right here where it says join our email list, it will open up a Google form for you all to fill out and put your personal email accounts. If you have a secondary one, you can put both of those so that we can get in touch with you. And anytime we have events like this, we can share that with you. So the really important tab that I really want to bring to your attention is this return to school tab. Each class has a separate tab. So 7th and 8th graders have their tabs right here. I'm just gonna click on the 7th graders so that you guys can see what we have. This is a work in progress. We're gonna continue to add more things into each of these tabs. So here is the email that was sent out by Mr. Rodriguez talking about our Zoom meeting today. A link to our YouTube channel if you couldn't get the Zoom info, how to activate your student DOE account, which is really important. I know we're used to using our 145 Innovators Google domain. We are no longer going to be using that. Moving forward, we are going to be using the domain that the DOE has put forth. So the students, you need to activate your account. So if you click on here, it will take you to a video that shows you how to activate it. And then if you click on the link at the very end of the page, it will take you to the actual place so that you can activate it, right? And the same thing for the parents. You also have to activate your account, and that is actually under, let me scroll up, the parents tab.
It's in there. It's the New York City Schools account, Jamie.
Thank you. So it'll bring you right here, and you're just going to put in your information here. And what's great about the DOE, they have the ability for you to translate it into any language that you need. So if you need it in Spanish, and it'll just change the whole form for you, and so that you can fill it out. So again, our website is a great tool to have and to utilize. And if you get a chance, please go through it and check it out. And we'll have more information as we continue to go on.
Ms. Clarkson,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention to the parents that learning preference survey, if you haven't done so already, it needs to be filled out no later than August 7th so that the schools can determine whether you want your child to stay home and learn remotely or have a blended day where they come to school or stay at home.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Vizame. Another thing besides our website, we do have a really great presence on social media. So we have an Instagram, we have a Facebook group, we have a Twitter account, and like we are right now, we are live streaming on our YouTube channel. So please jot down these 4 accounts and definitely our website. And as we get more information, we will be posting it daily on our website. The floor is yours, Mr. Rodriguez.
Okay, we good? Okay, that's next slide. Okay, so attendance and so forth, chronic absenteeism. We're currently developing a system to capture daily contact with students in remote and hybrid settings. So that's something to be determined soon. Next slide. Okay, so let me see if I can explain this today to all of you. This is a draft, and it's a very important one, parents. And I just put this together today based on the information that I received yesterday and this morning from the mayor and the chancellor. And this is how I envision opening up IS 145 for our students and staff. On the top, you will see like a graphic organizer where you could see the academies, the 4 academies: Enterprise, Discovery, Global, and Explorer. To the right, you have the number of rooms per academy and the number of classes per academy. By doing so, I will feel extremely comfortable to create the system that I need to ensure that the students are getting the instruction they need, but they're also in a safe and supportive environment. Those 16 classes for enterprise will entry into the building and will be dismissed from our building using exit G on 79th Street by the cafeteria exit. Discovery, exit E, 79th Street by the parking lot exit. Global, exit C, 34th Avenue. And Explorer, exit J, 79th Street by the schoolyard exit. We have different entry and dismissal points. Each academy has a different lunch period. So Enterprise, period 7, Discovery, period 4, Global, period 6, and Explorer, period 5. I'm gonna get back to that one when it comes to, actually, if you look at the bottom, it says breakfast and lunch. It says grab and go breakfast for students, 4 lunch periods. Lunch will be delivered to the classroom by cafeteria staff. I have 13 school aides and 3 dean's advisors that will cover the 16 classes during lunch periods. The job of the school aide has always been to be in the cafeteria with the students by themselves. And obviously we're going to have all the teachers that can volunteer to offer their professional periods to help us during our lunch periods. What the chancellor stated yesterday in our meeting was that the students were going to have lunch in one of their teaching periods. Meaning, if I have lunch period 4 and I have period 4, I could have lunch and at the same time receive my instruction from an ELA teacher if that's the case. I'm trying to present to them a different scenario. I would like the students to have a peaceful lunch. I would like them to enjoy their lunch. I don't see myself eating and learning at the same time, but that's just me. So I'm trying to propose this plan to the superintendent and the DOE, because I think I have the staff that can service the kids in the classroom without exposing them to have a working lunch. Each academy would have access to Enterprise has 4 bathrooms on the first floor and 2 in the basement. So students will have access to, obviously, the bathroom, but within that perimeter. Discovery has 2 in the old wing, which is their academy area. Global has 2, and the Explorer has 2 in the new wing on the 3rd floor, 1 in the old wing on the 3rd floor, which is the transgender bathroom, and then we have 2 in the new wing 2nd floor. When it comes to proximity, Enterprise will be in the old and new wings, basement and 1st floor. So those 16 classes for that particular academy will remain put in that area. Discovery will be on the 2nd floor, old wing. Global will be in the 3rd floor, old wing. And Explorer will be in the new wing, 2nd and 3rd floor. So we have, again, 52 general education ICT classes, 30 students per class, 3 subgroups, AA, BB, CC, Model 3B. So we have seen that already. 6 self-contained classes. Then we also have the breakfast and lunch grab and go breakfast for lunch period, and room utilization. We have 62 classrooms for major subjects, 10 for encore classrooms, and then I have the isolation room, which is 131 by the nurse's office, and that exit by the nurse's office will be used for parents to pick up their child to take it home in case of the child, or the hospital in case of the child feels sick. Um, Next slide, Ms. Blackman. Now, the staff, because I'm sure that even though many of you obviously are parents, but when you ask a question about the staff, this is how it's going to work. Signing logs at every bathroom, that's for staff and uh, and students to keep that tracing in perspective. The third floor has 2 bathrooms for staff members. The second floor has 2. The first floor has 4. And we have 5 offices with bathrooms for the staff. So we have plenty of bathrooms for the staff. So staff should not be using any bathroom, obviously. It has never been the case, or bathrooms that are dedicated for students. We have 1 lactation room, and we have working station for the staff in different areas of the building. Student cafeteria, I'm not planning to use it. And teacher cafeteria, auditorium, so far I'm not planning to use it. And the UFT Teacher Center and so forth. When it comes to the social emotional component, we have 1 health clinic on site on the first floor, 1 mental health clinic on site in the basement, counseling schools, another section of the basement, and we have 3 counselors in the building besides the school-based support team. Next slide. Now, before we go into explain to you the attendance procedure for this meeting, because I have to take your attendance and send it to the Department of Education. So before we move on to questions and answers, I would like to thank Mr. Mateo, one of my assistant principals, Ms. Clapman, teacher, and Jerry, parent coordinator, to be here with me today. And more importantly, thank all the parents that joined me today to have this conversation. So in terms of attendance, Jamie, you can explain that, or was it Mateo or Ms. Clapman?
I'll explain it. So, like Mr. Rodriguez says, we have to take attendance and send it to the DOE so that they know that we had this informational session. So Mr. Mateo dropped the link to the sign-in sheet into the chat box. And if you have any questions that maybe we don't, because we do have a second meeting for those that need Spanish translation. So we might not be able to answer every single question. So this will be giving you an opportunity to get those questions that maybe we didn't answer. But if you have a question right now that maybe wasn't in our slides, or you want to ask Mr. Rodriguez, go ahead and just drop it in the chat box and we will read it out loud, and Mr. Rodriguez will answer them to the best of his ability. Again, we know that everything is changing not only by day, but by the minute. So he probably is might not have the answer that you need, but I'm sure he can get the answer at a later date if he can. So Mr. Rodriguez, somebody asked, how do we get a copy of the health form that we showed in our slides?
Good. You could bring us back right to our screen so we could look at each other.
Yep.
Okay. Again, when I had the meeting with the staff from the hospitals, I asked them if they can send me electronically the form, and I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for them to send it to me so I can forward it to all of you. There are some technical pieces that have to be in place because of the signature and the validation of the signature and so forth. but they're working on it. As soon as I get it, I'll forward it to you.
Someone asked, you mentioned that you can't force student to wear a mask. Is that correct?
Well, by Ms. Clapman, I think it's, I forgot the page, but when you look at the document from the New York State Health Department, they're saying that I cannot demand it. Like, I can't enforce it. However, we have to make every student aware that it's extremely important to wear a mask, especially if you're not keeping that 6 feet social distancing protocol in place. Students do not have obviously to wear a mask when they have their lunch. They don't have to wear it in the classroom if they are 6 feet apart from each other. But again, this is the work that we need to do. You do it as parents, and we all do it here as educators, just to let the students know that we must wear a mask for our own safety. So I hope that we can persuade just a few, and it's just not just students. You see it in our beautiful nation and wonderful nation, how people sometimes don't feel comfortable wearing the mask, but this is something that we do some work.
Next question, how will remote teaching work? Will the kids be connected to the class live?
That's the goal. That's what we want to do. Teachers, the United Federation of Teachers are negotiating many pieces with the DOE, but that is what we would like to do. I know for a fact that in summer school, teachers are mandated to have 2 hours of synchronous instruction, live instruction. So I hope that that's going to come through, because it's critical, extremely critical, that having that live instruction will take place. So I hope that that's going to be the case.
Next question, is HVAC system of school modified to combat COVID-19? So the HVAC system,
The AC and the heating.
the heating and the cooling system.
Oh, okay. So again, according to the chancellor and the custodians, when I met with them, every single ventilator has to be completely clean, disinfected. Every single area of our building must pass an inspection, but it has to be clean. I know also that doctors are saying that windows should be kept open at all times, because ventilation, I guess, is required, or it makes it a better environment. I guess you can do that during certain days. I don't see that happening in the winter when the temperature is extremely low, but it's been taken care of by the custodians.
Next question, how will you ensure classrooms and facilities are cleaned every day? Will parents need to provide products?
No, parents don't have to provide anything. Everything will be provided by the Department of Education, but the custodians must clean the bathrooms at 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and definitely after dismissal. And then that's standard procedure for now. And they have to work at night to make sure that every single room is disinfected. That's their job, and they must comply.
Are
And
there
they already know. They already know, because I've met with them multiple times, and they already know. They have a plan already, please.
Are there any effects on my child only picking remote learning?
Any what?
They said any effects on my child picking remote learning.
No, that's your decision. It has to be respected. Let me just say this to you when it comes to remote learning. Right now, I don't know how many students, and Jerry was talking about it a few minutes ago. I don't know how many students or how many parents have chosen remote learning, a full-time remote learning choice. I don't know how many parents have decided that yet. That's going to be extremely important for us to put all that in perspective. However, and then besides that, as of today, I have 14 teachers that have requested just to work from home because they have underlying conditions. Those 14 staff members, they just submitted their application. I don't know if that will be granted, but if that's the case, then we have a combination of not just students receiving instruction remotely, but we also going to have 14 or 15 teachers also working remotely, which poses another challenge. Because if a class has 6 teachers, which is basically what happens in middle school, and one of those teachers will receive the waiver to work from home, but the students are here, that class has to be covered with another teacher, because even though that teacher is going to be working from home, doesn't mean that the class will be here unattended. So the same thing happens the other way around. So if the student is working from home, is at home at all times, the teacher in the classroom must have live instruction. And that is something that I don't see yet that it has been determined. So those are pieces of very good questions. We're going to get back to that in another meeting. But a student that stays home has the same, should have the same access to the lessons of a kid or a child that is in school. Should be the same thing, as long as the student has the equipment to use to download the lessons and so forth, or to be live with a teacher and so forth. But that's something that the parents have to decide. Once we have that, and I know how many, I'll get better. I guess I would have a better answer for you.
2 questions about masks. One says, what if a child has a medical condition that doesn't allow him to wear a mask? And are the students required to use masks when they're in the classrooms?
Right. So that document, and maybe Ms. Clement, we could put that document in our website, because there's a section in that document from the New York State Health Department of Health, and it says that a student that has a medical condition, is my understanding, we cannot ask this child to wear the mask if he has a medical condition. And the other question had to do with masks in the classroom, you're saying?
Yep.
If they what? What is the question again?
Do they have to wear the masks inside the classroom?
If they are 6 feet apart from each other, they don't have to. But we have to make sure they are 6 feet apart from each other. And if they want to go to the bathroom, of course, they have to wear it. And there will be a signing sheet before when they go to the bathroom, because we need to know every 2 hours we have to clean the bathrooms. And students have to go to the bathroom just one at a time inside the bathroom. So the social distancing, we don't have that inside the bathroom. Next.
Mr. Rodriguez, before we go to the next question, I would like to remind the parents to please complete the form, the attendance, to sign in.
Okay, let's go.
Currently only have 16 people that signed in, and we have a total of 37 participants on the in the Zoom meeting, and 26 in the live streaming right now through YouTube. So please, we really need the attendance. So please make sure you click on the link that I just provided and complete it. And if you have any questions, you can post them there as well, because all those questions that you guys are posting, we will answer them and put them in our website.
Right, so parents, please, yes, we need that attendance taking. I know that I'm having this meeting at 6 o'clock with the Spanish-speaking parents, and we get a lot of Spanish-speaking parents. We have those sessions. So, so please, yes, make sure you fill that out. Thank you, Mr. Mateo, for reminding me or reminding all of us. Next question.
How is temperatures being taken on the students? And if it's taken on their forehead, could it be taken in the inner elbow area?
Well, that is something to be determined by the health department. When I met with them, they stated that they're coming up with procedures in terms of how to take the temperature. Um, we have 2 nurses in our building that they work for us here, and we need 4. So I guess that's something that the medical division will be more to answer that question. My job is to make sure that we have the 4 different entry points into our building, just to have the tracking system in place, the tracing system in place. And they will have to determine if there's going to be, how they're going to do it and how they're going to record it. They also mentioned that they're willing to train some staff members. So I don't know how is that going to work. But that is something that's still to be determined.
Next question asks, what will electives look like, for instance, gym?
Right. That's again, I mean, it's hard because we normally put 120 kids in the gym with 3 teachers. That definitely is not going to happen. But the gym is something that we need to analyze with the gym department. But the other electives, unfortunately, they have to come to the classrooms where the kids are, the students are. So I cannot send the students to the designated areas. Don't forget, as soon as we get 1 student that tested positive, every single child, student, and staff member that was in the proximity of a student must go to quarantine. So that's why the tracing is critical, especially at the beginning, because we don't know what's going to happen at the beginning of our school. I know that we have to have a system in place, and the system is something that I drafted today, and it was just a draft, and I would have to send this to the Department of Education for approval and feedback. But the electives, teachers are traveling, not the students.
So the next question is, a parent was asking, can their child bring their own lunch to school?
I think so. I mean, I haven't seen anywhere in all those documents. And again, Ms. Clement, we're going to display that document for parents to read it. I didn't see anything in that document that will say that students cannot bring lunch to the classrooms. No. I think that as, as of today, I would say yes, they can bring the lunch to the classrooms. I don't see why they shouldn't.
So I think we have a couple of students that were asking about senior trips and prom, if that would be something that's able.
Are the students there too? Are they there?
Or it could be a parent, but I think these are students.
No, because I would like, the reason I'm saying is because I would like to have a meeting with all the students soon. All the 7th graders first, and then all the 8th graders. And then I'm sure they're gonna have tons of questions. But about trips?
Yeah, a senior trip and prom, that was the next 2 questions.
Virtually, yes. I guess virtually, right? Trips. Let me tell you, it was very sad for my 8th graders this year. Extremely, extremely sad. And I still have each one of the 8th graders' cap and gown, yearbook, diploma, report cards, t-shirts, medals, trophies. I still have everything in bags with their names and ribbons. I haven't been able to distribute anything because I cannot have 600 8th graders coming to our building. So I'm still waiting for guidance. And that's just the 8th graders that just graduated. So they didn't have anything. I hope that things will change. I have faith that things will change. And if that's the case, then why not to have a graduation? Why not to have a prom? But now, what is extremely important is to make sure that we're all safe, healthy, and that we're all learning somehow. But if June comes and we're back to our normal lives, of course, we should have a graduation. Why not a prom? Why not a trip? I feel extremely, extremely sad. I've been taking 100 kids for the past 14 years to overnight trips in Washington, D.C., and this is the first time I couldn't do it. So I can imagine how the students feel. But let's have hope. Let's have hope. And if everything is over, of course, we should have it. Next question.
So remote learning is not officially on real time. That's a question.
What I
We
never,
have,
I never said that. I'm saying that we have to work it out. I think it's a conversation that has to happen, has to take place between the UFT, the Federation of Teachers, and the Department of Education. I'm leading towards to believe that there has to be live instruction remotely. It's just the logistics have to be put in place.
and a follow-up question to that one is, we have to make this decision by August 7th, correct?
Yes. Yes. And I guess Jerry, then you could change your option. I think 2 months later. Is that what it is, Ms. Jerry?
It's gonna be done quarterly. So for instance, let's say you decide in September, you want your child to stay home and learn remotely. At a certain point in the year, they're going to offer the parents if they would like to change and send their child to the school.
Right. Okay, next question.
Will students be provided equipment for remote learning? Such as laptops, printers, scanners, etc.
Well, I don't know about printers or scanners, but
There's,
I don't know about printers or scanners. However, the answer to the question is yes and no. If a student already has a device that was provided by the DOE, and Ms. Jerry and Mr. Mateo can correct me, and if the students are keeping those devices, then the school doesn't have to provide anything because you have
right.
it.
If-
Now, but if you don't have it at all, then it's our job to facilitate. Don't forget, we have 1,670 students. We cannot provide all that equipment to the whole school. And I have to be very fair. So I guess, Ms. Jerry, if they have it, right?
Well, if the child already has a device that they got for the remote learning that we did from March to June, they should hold on to it so that they can use it in September. If you do not have a device, my suggestion is to go onto the Board of Ed website and you can request a device and order it now in order that you receive it before September comes.
So I read
Now,
that an iPad is not, I'm sorry, that an iPad is not sufficient. So again, I think that Mateo, I'm sorry, Jerry. Jerry, just finish your thought first.
No, what I was gonna say is my understanding now, I know some of the iPads had issues, but they have upgraded them all to have internet access. So if you have one that didn't have internet access or you had issues with it, you can always send it in and request another one because they've upgraded all the iPads to be more easier to use.
Mateo, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would add the following. The iPads provided by the DOE, I think most of them now are coming with their own Wi-Fi. So that's one of the pluses. The Chromebooks that we provided from our school, unfortunately, we don't provide them with Wi-Fi. You need to have Wi-Fi at home. So it's very, and we cannot have, as a school, we cannot provide Wi-Fi for our students. That came straight directly from the DOE. That's why they provided those iPads that came with the Wi-Fi for those students. I also, in the chat, I added a inventory form. This will help us see where we are in terms of our students, what type of equipment we have at home, if the students have iPad provided by the DOE, if they have their own device at home, or if Chromebook was provided by us by S145. And the next question will be if you have Wi-Fi at home. So please complete that form for the students. You only have to complete it once. One thing I would like to add is that we use the OSIS number, which is the ID number, to identify our students. There are many Jose's, there are many Carlos. So we try to use the student's ID number. So please make sure that anytime you send out any information, please provide the correct ID number. It really helps us out sorting the information out. So a couple of the tasks right now, a couple of things. Number one, completing your sign-in. And in there, you have the opportunity to add any questions. Those questions will be reviewed and added to a document and will be added to our website. We're just waiting for the Spanish Zoom meeting that we will have around 6 o'clock to put all those questions together. We also provided in the chat the link to select your preference, remote or the hybrid. And lastly, we also provided the inventory form. Please complete those 3 things today. It will really help us out in the planning for September. I don't know if we want to add anything else, Mr. Rodriguez, because it is 5:25 and we have to.
Right. I would just like to thank again you, Mr. Mateo, and Ms. Glavin and Ms. Jerry, and thank you, parents, for joining me this afternoon. We should have more meetings. We have to get ready for the next meeting. We have a large number of parents joining us in Spanish-speaking families. So thank you for being with us this afternoon. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Have a safe weekend, and we'll keep in touch. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, guys.